The snowflakes fell like whispered prayers over Manhattan as Sarah Mitchell stood frozen outside Bella Notte, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the frost-kissed window, she could see him, the man from the dating app, still sitting at their reserved table, checking his watch for what must have been the 100th time. She was 47 minutes late. 47 minutes that felt like a lifetime of failure crystallized into a single, mortifying moment. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from him. Still here. Hope everything's okay. Sarah's eyes burned with tears she couldn't afford to shed. Not here. Not now. Her mascara, the drugstore kind she'd applied in the McDonald's bathroom 20 minutes ago, would run, and she'd look even more pathetic than she already felt. A 32-year-old single mother showing up to a blind date in a 5-year-old dress, with subway grime on her shoes and the lingering scent of chicken nuggets in her hair because her 6-year-old daughter, Emma, had refused to eat anything else before Sarah left her with Mrs. Chen next door. She should leave. She should turn around, delete the app, and accept that fairy tales didn't happen to women like her. Women who worked double shifts at a diner, who clipped coupons like their life depended on it, who hadn't bought themselves new clothes since Emma was born. Women who were always late because life kept throwing obstacles in their path like some cruel cosmic joke. But something made her push open that door. Maybe it was the way he'd written in his profile that he believed in second chances. Maybe it was the desperate hope that Emma deserved to see her mother try, just once more, to believe in something beautiful. Or maybe it was simply that she was so bone tired of being afraid. The warmth of the restaurant enveloped her like an embrace. A hostess approached with a professional smile that flickered when she took in Sarah's appearance. The comparison to the wealthy patrons in their designer wear was stark and humiliating. "I'm here to meet someone," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft jazz playing. "Table for two," under the name Donovan. She'd almost choked when she'd first seen his last name. James Donovan. She'd Googled him, of course, and felt her stomach drop. CEO of Donovan Technologies, a company worth billions. She'd nearly cancelled right then. What was a man like that doing on a dating app? And why had he swiped right on her? A woman whose entire life story screamed, struggling. The hostess's demeanor shifted subtly, a mix of surprise and something else Sarah couldn't quite identify. "Right this way, ma'am." As Sarah walked through the restaurant, she felt every eye on her. The women in their pearls and silk. The men in their tailored suits. And there, at a corner table with a view of the snow-dusted street, sat James Donovan. He stood as she approached, and Sarah's breath caught. He was more handsome than his photos. Tall, with dark hair silvering at the temples, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. But it was his eyes that stopped her. They weren't judging. They weren't disappointed. They were kind. "Sarah." His voice was warm, genuine. "I'm so sorry," she blurted out, the words tumbling over themselves. "The subway broke down, and then I had to take a bus, but there was an accident, and I tried to call but my phone died, and I know I should have left earlier, but my daughter, she's 6, and she was having a meltdown because it's Christmas Eve and I was leaving, and Mrs. Chen, my neighbor, she's wonderful but Emma didn't want me to go, and..." "Breathe," James said softly, pulling out her chair. "You're here now. That's what matters." Sarah sat, her hands trembling as she placed her worn purse on her lap. The menu he handed her might as well have been written in ancient Greek. The prices had no numbers beside them, never a good sign. "I have to be honest with you," Sarah said, unable to meet his eyes. "I can't afford anything on this menu. I shouldn't have agreed to meet here. I should have suggested coffee or, I don't know, a walk in the park. This was a mistake." She started to stand, but James's hand gently touched hers. The contact was electric, surprising. "Please, stay," he said. "This is my treat. I chose this place." And honestly, he leaned in, a conspirator's smile on his lips. "I was terrified you wouldn't show up. I've been sitting here convincing myself that a woman like you wouldn't want anything to do with someone like me." Sarah laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound. "Someone like you? You're a CEO. I looked you up. You're on the cover of Forbes magazine. And I'm a waitress who lives in a studio apartment with my daughter and a goldfish named Bubbles who may or may not be dead right now because Emma insists on overfeeding him." For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then James laughed. Really laughed. and the sound broke something open in Sarah's chest. "Bubbles," he repeated, shaking his head. "That's perfect. Over wine. For him, and water. For her, because she was too nervous to risk alcohol," the story unfolded. James ordered for both of them, choosing dishes with a care that suggested he actually knew what she might like, not what would impress. And as they ate, they talked. Sarah learned that James had built his company from nothing, working 3 jobs while going to night school. That his parents had been immigrants who'd sacrificed everything for his education. That he'd been married once, briefly, to a woman who'd loved his potential but left when the reality of building a business meant endless nights and crushing stress. "I have a son," James admitted, his eyes distant. "Michael. He's 15. Lives with his mother in Connecticut. I see him every other weekend, and it's never enough." His voice cracked slightly. "I missed so much when he was young. I was always working, always building, always trying to prove something. And now he's almost grown, and I can't get that time back." Sarah understood that pain. She told him about Emma's father, a man who'd promised forever and disappeared the moment the pregnancy test showed positive. About working nights at the diner while studying for her nursing degree, a dream she'd had to abandon when childcare costs exceeded what she could make. About the small, fierce joy Emma brought to every moment, even the hard ones. "She believes in Santa Claus," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "Really believes. And I've been working extra shifts to afford this one doll she wants. It's called Princess Starlight, and it's everywhere this year, and I finally saved enough to buy it. But when I went to the store yesterday, they were sold out. Everywhere's sold out." Tears slipped down her cheeks now, unbidden. "I'm going to disappoint her on Christmas morning, and I can't. I can't bear it." James reached across the table and took her hand. His thumb traced gentle circles on her palm. "What if I told you," he said quietly, "that my assistant's daughter had the same doll on her list? And that when I asked what to get her as a Christmas gift, her mother mentioned they'd already bought 2 by accident?" Sarah's head snapped up. "What? I could make a call. Right now." "No," Sarah said quickly, pulling her hand back. "No, I can't. I can't accept charity. I'm not here because you're wealthy or because I need saving. I came because your profile said you volunteer at a soup kitchen every Thanksgiving. Because you wrote about how your mother taught you that wealth means nothing if you don't share it. Because you seemed real." James nodded slowly. "You're right. I apologize. That was presumptuous." He paused. Then, "But what if it's not charity? What if I told you that sitting here with you, listening to you talk about your daughter, has been the first real conversation I've had in months? That everyone I meet wants something from me, a deal, an investment, a connection. But you showed up 47 minutes late, apologized with chicken nugget perfume in your hair, and told me you couldn't afford the menu. You're the most honest person I've met in years." Sarah laughed through her tears. "Chicken nugget perfume. It's actually quite charming," James said, grinning. The evening continued, and the restaurant around them seemed to fade. They talked about everything and nothing. Favorite books, worst jobs, the way New York smelled after rain, the impossibility of good pizza outside the tri-state area. James told her about the pressure of running a company, the loneliness of success, the way he sometimes sat in his penthouse apartment and wondered if any of it mattered. Sarah shared her fears about Emma growing up, about whether she was enough, about dreams deferred and hopes that felt too fragile to speak aloud. When the check came, Sarah didn't look. James paid without ceremony, and when they stepped outside into the snow-covered street, the world felt transformed. Christmas lights twinkled overhead, and carolers sang somewhere in the distance. "Thank you," Sarah said, turning to face him. "For waiting. For not leaving." James stepped closer, his breath visible in the cold air. "Thank you for coming. For being late. For being exactly who you are." He kissed her then. Gentle, questioning, perfect. And Sarah felt something shift inside her, like a door opening to a room she'd forgotten existed. "Come with me," James said suddenly. "I want to show you something." They took his car, a sleek black sedan that made Sarah's earlier subway journey feel like a distant memory, and drove through Manhattan. They ended up at his office building, towering glass and steel against the night sky. "What are we doing here?" Sarah asked as they took an elevator to the top floor. James didn't answer, just led her through empty corridors to his office. There, on his desk, was a photograph, a younger James with a little boy, both covered in paint, laughing. "That was the last time I remember just being with Michael," James said. "No phone, no meetings. Just us, painting his bedroom blue because he wanted it to look like the ocean." He picked up the photo, his expression aching. "I have everything, Sarah. Money, success, respect. But I'd trade it all for more moments like that one." Sarah understood. She walked to the window, looking out over the city, millions of lives, millions of stories, all intersecting in this massive, beautiful, terrible place. "I don't need you to save me," she said finally. "And I don't want to be your project or your redemption. But I think maybe we could save each other. A little bit, if we're brave enough." James came to stand beside her. "I'd like that, very much." They spent Christmas morning together, Sarah, Emma, and James. He'd called his assistant, and yes, there was a Princess Starlight doll, which he insisted was simply a gift from one parent to another. Emma's face when she opened it was worth everything, every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt. And as James sat on Sarah's worn couch, drinking coffee from a chipped mug while Emma showed him how Princess Starlight could light up, Sarah realized something profound. Sometimes the best gifts aren't wrapped in paper. Sometimes they're wrapped in second chances, in kindness. Offered when no one's watching, in a man who waits 47 minutes and doesn't check his watch with impatience but with hope. 6 months later, James proposed, not with a flashy ring in a fancy restaurant, but with a simple band during a walk in Central Park, with Emma holding both their hands. "I want more moments," he told Sarah. "Real moments. With you. With Emma. With Michael. I want to build something that matters. Not a company, but a life. Our life." Sarah said yes, not because he was a CEO or because he could buy Princess Starlight dolls. But because he'd waited. Because he'd seen her, truly seen her, in all her messy, struggling, beautiful humanity. Because he understood that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when you're late, even when you're scared, even when you smell like chicken nuggets. And that Christmas Eve, when a poor single mom arrived 47 minutes late to a blind date, a CEO waited. Not because he had to, but because some people are worth waiting for. Because kindness costs nothing but means everything. Because sometimes, the best love stories are written in the margins of ordinary lives, in moments of grace that remind us all, we're never too broken to be loved, never too late to start again, never too lost to find our way home.